Yes, now I can see it.
Okay. सर्वेभ्यः नमस्काराः। अद्य सिद्धान्तकौमुद्याः हल् सन्धि प्रकरणे ऋत्वप्रकरणे नश्चव्यप्रशान् इत्यतः आरभ्यते। येनाक्षरसमां न्यायमधिगम्य महेश्वरात् कृत्स्नं व्याकरणं प्रोक्तं तस्मै पाणिनये नमः। वाक्यकारं वररुचिं भाष्यकारं पतञ्जलिं पाणिनिं सूत्रकारं च प्रणतोऽस्मि मुनित्रयम्। मुनित्रयं नमस्कृत्य तदुक्तिः परिभाव्य च वैयाकरणसिद्धान्तकौमुदीयं विरच्यते। ऋत्वप्रकरणम् आरब्धं समस्सुटि इति सूत्रेण। सम् इति उपसर्गस्य सुटिपरे ऋत्वं भवति इति सूत्रार्थः। सम् स कर्ता इति स्थिते मकारस्य ऋत्वे ततः पूर्णे ऋत्वप्रकरणे एव सूत्रद्वयं सर्वत्र यत्र ऋत्वं भवति तत्र सर्वत्र सूत्रद्वयस्य प्रवृत्तिः भवति। अत्रानुनासिकः पूर्वस्य तु वा इति सूत्रेण रोः पूर्वस्य वर्णस्य अनुनासिकः विधीयते विकल्पेन। अनुनासिकाभावे तु अनुनासिकात् परोनुस्वारः इत्यनेन अनुस्वारः विधीयते। तस्मात् यत्र ऋत्वं विधीयते तत्र रूपद्वयं साधारणतया सिद्ध्यति। एकं तु अनुनासिकसहितं रूपम्, अन्यत् तु अनुस्वारसहितं रूपम्। ऋत्वे कृते ऋत्वस्य विसर्जनीयः अपि सामान्यतः भवति। खर्वसानयोर्विसर्जनीयः इत्यनेन विसर्जनीयस्य भिन्ना गतिः भवति। एकत्र तु विसर्जनीयस्य सः, खरिपरे विसर्जनीयस्य सः स्यात् इत्यनेन सत्वं स्यात्, अथवा सम्पुङ्कानां स्ववक्तव्यः इत्यनेन सम् पुं कान् इत्येतेषां त्रयाणां विसर्गस्य सकारः नित्यमेव भवति। विसर्जनीयस्य सः इत्यनेन इव प्राप्ते तदपवादत्वेन वाशरी इत्यनेन विकल्पेन सत्वे प्राप्ते सम्पुङ्कानां स्ववक्तव्यः इत्यनेन पुनः नित्यत्वेन सकारः विधीयते। अग्रिमं सूत्रमासीत् पुमः खै अम्परे। समस्सुटि पुमः खै अम्परे। अम्परे खै पुं शब्दस्य रुः स्यात् ऋत्वं भवति। अत्रापि पुनः अनुनासिकः अनुस्वारः विसर्जनीयस्य खरवसानयोर्विसर्जनीयस्य स्थाने सम्पुङ्कानां स्ववक्तव्यः इत्यनेन सत्वे पुंस्कोकिलः पुंस्कोकिलः, पुंस्पुत्रः पुंस्पुत्रः इत्यादिरीत्या रूपाणि दृष्टानि। So did anybody find out how many rupas would be possible for Samskrita? We saw the 108 forms of Samskrita. What about Sanskrita? Okay. Anybody tried? Muthu Subramanianji says it is 36. Could somebody explain how we get 36 forms? Can you try? Okay. As he says, the Dvitva will not apply for Takara because there is no Repha or a Yanvarna. Samskrita, where we did the Takara, we doubled and then tripled the Takara using Achorahabhyam Dve and Yanomayo Dve Vatsye. Both of them will not apply in Samskrita because you have an Ach there. R and Ta. There is no Sanyukta Akshara, there is no Refa to apply Achorahabhyam Dve or a Yanvarna to apply Yanomayo Dve Vatsye. So there is no Dvitva for Takara. The Takara will remain single. Also we cannot apply the Anopragrihyasyanunasikaha because there is no an at the end. It has to be an an, a, e, u, one of those at the end. Here it is a makara at the end in Sanskritam. So you cannot apply Anopragrihyasyanunasikaha. So if we come backwards, with Ano Pragrahyasya Anunasikaha we had 108 forms. Since that sutra cannot apply, this thing was cut down to 54 Chatushpanchashat Rupani. And then there also we have to divide by 3 because the Dvitva, there are 2 steps which we are not applying, which is Dvitva for Takara and this. So it comes to 18. How did you get 36 forms? Is it possible to get 36? Okay. Anopragrahistya will not apply because the form is Sanskritam, with the pratyaya added, not just Samskrita. Samskrita is not a pada. In Samskrta, even though it is true that there also we add supratyaya, but then the supratyaya gets lopa by other sutras and the final form is Samskarta. So at the end we have an an and we can get Ano Pragrahyasya Anunasikaha, whereas if it is Samskritam, that will also not apply. So we have 18 forms of Samskrita. Right? Okay, any doubts from previous class? Okay, I said something about Sthanivat Bhava. Sthanivat Bhava is actually not so easy to understand, but I think your question was how do we get Sthanivat Bhava for some, because I don't remember what was the question. Where was the Sthanivat Bhava doubt? What point? Okay. When we do Dvitvam for Sakara, we assume there is no Sthanivat Bhava. Why? Sthanivat Bhava for what? Sthanivat Bhava is not a very plain thing as there is just Sthanivat Bhava or not. No, Sthanivat Bhava does not mean that whatever is the Adesha is not Sthani. There it is an Sthanivat Bhava has lot of conditions which surround it. There's one thing to what are we doing the Adesha, what is the Adesha, what is the Sthani, what is the Karya which we are trying to do now, and a lot of things. For example, if you say you cannot consider Sakara is Makara by Sthanivat Bhava because Makara has been replaced by Sakara and the Dvitva is an Alvidhi. Dvitva always happens to a single letter and therefore it is an Alvidhi and so there is no Sthanivat Bhava when we are trying to do Dvitva for Sakara. Right. So Achah Parasmin Purvavidho will also not apply here. Yeah, correct. Achah Parasmin Purvavidho will not apply here because the Karya is not the Purva Vidhi. Achah Parasmin Purvavidho has 3 conditions to apply. One is that Paranimittaha Ajadeshaha. The basic point here, it is not an Ajadesha at all because it's an Adesha for Makara. Makara is replaced by Rutva, Rutva is applied by Visarga. And also if you consider Visarga is being replaced by Sakara. So if you think Sakara is an Ajadesha, even then it is not Achah Parasmin Purva Vidhau. Purva Vidhau. Achah Parasmin Purva Vidhau will apply only when the Karya which has to be done is a Purva Vidhi. This is not a Purva Vidhi. This is the Vidhi for the Adesha and not a Purva Vidhi. That is why Achah Parasmin Purva Vidhau also cannot apply here. And even if it could, we already have na padanta dvirvachana. In case of dvirvachana, there is no Sthanivat Bhava at all. Even if by chance this would apply, but this does not apply at all. Okay, so I think we can move on to the next sutras. अग्रिमं सूत्रमस्ति ऋत्वप्रकरणमेव अनुवर्त्यते नश्च is the next sutra which is in the same series. Samassuti Pumakhayyam Pare and Naschavya Prashan. Paratrayam asti Naha Chavi Aprashan Ityarthaha. Matuvasvaru Sambuddho Chandasi Ityatah Ruhu iti anuvartate. Pumakhayyam Pare Ityatah Ampare Ityapi anuvartate. Padasya ityadhikarah asti. नः पदस्य नः इति पदस्य इत्यस्य विशेषणं विशेषणं चेत् येन विधिस्तदन्तस्य विशेषणं तदन्तस्य संज्ञा स्यात् wherever we have an adjective the विशेषण विशेष्य भाव we have तदन्त विधि नः is a विशेषण to पदस्य so it will give the meaning of नकारान्तस्य पदस्य अम्परे छवि पुमःखय्यम्परे इत्यतः अम्परे इति अनुवर्तते छवि इति सूत्रे श्रूयते उभयमपि सप्तमी विभक्तिः छवि अर्थात् छव् वर्णे परे छ ठ त चटत खप छ ठ थ छकारादारभ्य चटतव् इत्यत्र वकारपर्यन्तं प्रत्याहारः छव् इति छव् वर्णे परे कीदृशे छवि अम्परे छवि छव् वर्णात् परत्वेन अम् वर्णः अस्ति चेत् अम्परे छवि नकारान्तस्य पदस्य रुः स्यात् ऋत्वं स्यात् अप्रशान् प्रशान् इति शब्दस्य तु ऋत्वं न भवति इत्यर्थः अम्परे छवि नकारान्तस्य पदस्य रुः स्यात् न तु प्रशान् शब्दस्य when a word ending with nakara is followed by a chav varna cha tha tha jatata which in turn is followed by an am varna then we have rutva for the nakaranta word shangin chindhi shangin iti संबोधनम नकारन्तः पुल्लिङ्गः शाङ्गिन् शब्दः तस्य संबोधने हे शाङ्गिन् छिन्धि इत्यर्थे शाङ्गिन् इति पदं नकारान्तं पदं तस्य छकारः अस्ति छकारात् परत्वेन इकारः अस्ति इकारः अम् वर्णः अम्परे छवि छकारे नकारान्तस्य पदस्य ऋत्वं स्यात् नकारान्तं पदम् अम्परे छवि ऋत्वम् इत्यनेन नकारस्य स्थाने अलोन्त्यस्य इत्यनेन अन्त्यस्य नकारस्य ऋत्वं ऋत्वे कृते शाङ्गिर् छिन्धि पुनः पश्यामः शाङ्गिर् छिन्धि नश्चव्यप्रशान् इत्यनेन ऋत्वे ततः अत्रानुनासिकः पूर्वस्य तु वा इत्यनेन अनुनासिकः अनुनासिके कृते रेफस्य खरवसानयोर्विसर्जनीयः इत्यनेन विसर्गादेशः विसर्गादेशे कृते विसर्जनीयस्य सः इत्यनेन सकारः खरिपरे विसर्जनीयस्य सः स्यात् शाङ्गिन्श्छिन्धि ततः स्तोहुश्चुनाश्चुः इत्यनेन सकारस्य श्चुत्वे शाङ्गिश्छिन्धि इति रूपम् इदं तु अनुनासिकपक्षे अनुस्वारपक्षे शाङ्गिंश्छिन्धि इति अनुस्वारः दृश्यते अनुनासिकवद्रूपमेकम् अनुस्वारवद्रूपम् अपरम्. Right? So the steps are all the same as what we saw in say Pumskokilaha or Samskrta, except that the Sattva, this sutra, Visarjaniyasya Saha is the only change. There we applied Sampunkanam Sovaktavyaha, here we apply Visarjaniyasya Saha. Right? Why? Why do we have to use Sampunkanam Sovaktavyaha there? And why not Visarjaniyasya Saha? I told this already in the beginning of this lesson, but I'm just trying to see if you caught it. Why can we not use Visarjaniyasya Saha when it is say Pum Kokilaha or Samkarta? Anybody? No. Anuswaraha asti chedapi. Muthu Subramanian ji is correct, but I'm looking at somebody else to answer. So, Anuswaraha asti chedapi. विसर्गस्य विषये कः भेदः? पूर्वत्र यत्किमपि भवतु खरिपरे विसर्जनीयस्य सत्वं भवति इति सूत्रार्थः विसर्जनीयस्य सः इत्यस्य। तत्रापि पुंः कोकिलः इत्यत्र वा संस्कर्ता इत्यत्र वा विसर्जनीयस्य सः इति प्राप्नोत्येव। किमर्थं न भवति? Why should we use विसर्जनीयस्य सः here and why do we use सम्पुङ्कानां सो वक्तव्यः there? Is there a difference? In both cases, the thing is, in both cases we need sakara as a nitya. That is, there sakara should happen compulsorily. There is no option, right? So this sutra is also a compulsory sutra. Visarjaniyasya saha is not optional. It says sattva will happen always, and sampunkanam so vaktavyaha also tells sattva. So why do we need the two sutras? Can we not manage with visarjaniyasya saha? I thought it was a very easy question. I almost prevented myself from asking it. But yeah. Somebody? Oh, Masuji. Hello.
I don't have in front of the sutra number. Is that Vipratisheda issue, and it has to do with the...
No, my question is, why do we need sampunkanam sovaktavyaha at all? Because we already have visarjaniyasya saha, which tells that whenever a visarga is followed by a khar varna, even in pum kokilaha the kakara is khar, and in samskarta the sakara is also khar. We can use visarjaniyasya saha to get sattva. Why do we have sampunkanam sovaktavyaha?
If you apply this, maybe you cannot go back and do anything else with the other sutras. Is that...
No.
Because it's in the Tripadi, you cannot go backwards.
You don't need to go back anywhere. It's still, I mean, there is no asiddhatva applying here. It involves other sutras other than just visarjaniyasya saha and sampunkanam sovaktavyaha. There is something else which is obstructing the application of visarjaniyasya saha. To overcome that obstruction, we need sampunkanam sovaktavyaha. Correct. So the thing is, we have visarjaniyasya saha, which is correct, but after visarjaniyasya saha, as an exception to visarjaniyasya saha, we have a sutra called va-shari. Visarjaniyasya saha tells khari pare visargasya sattvam syad. Va-shari tells shari pare. If that khar happens to be shar, that is shar, sa, then it is an optional sakara. So to prevent that optional sakara, va-shari prevents the application of visarjaniyasya saha. Now to overcome va-shari, we need a compulsory sattva again, which is given by sampunkanam sovaktavyaha. Right? So to prevent of va-shari, we have sampunkanam sovaktavyaha. Now another question, is sampunkanam sovaktavyaha an exception to only va-shari or any other sutra? Is it needed only to overcome va-shari, or do we need it to overcome any other sutra also? No numbers, as in this doesn't have anything to do with numbers actually. I mean, even though it is in Purvatra Siddham, this particular thing does not depend on the numbers. I'm asking, say, for example, let me be specific. In Pumskokilaha, when we have Pumskokilaha, Vashari will not apply because it is not a Shar Varna. Kakara is not Shar. So why can't we use Visarjaniyasya Saha there? I said in Samskrta it was correct. We had Visarjaniyasya Saha which was overcome by Vashari. To prevent that we again used Sampunkanam so Vaktavyaha. What about Pumskokilaha? Why do we need Sampunkanam so Vaktavyaha in Pumskokilaha or Pumsputraha? Their Kakara and Pakara is not Shar. Higher priority because it is later? No. In Purvatra Siddham, this logic does not apply. It will actually have a higher priority if it were earlier. So that's not the answer. And even if Hema says Makara will be deleted, which is only in Samskrta, the Makara, if the Makara is deleted optionally, then we don't have a Sakara or Visarga, so the question only does not arise. No. Specific rule dealing with some Pum. Why do you need Pum? Take off Pum. Why do you have to include Pum in that if our examples are Pumskokilaha? Is it because it has to be a Pratyaya? No. Not that it has to be a Pratyaya. It has nothing to do with the, yeah. You are somewhere close to the answer, but that's not the exact answer. Tell you the same logic. Even in Pumsputraha or Pumskokilaha, there is some other rule which is obstructing the application of Visarjaniyasya Saha. To overcome that rule, we need Sampunkanam so Vaktavyaha. And that rule is not Vashari because there is no Sharvarana here. There is some other rule which obstructs the application of Visarjaniyasya Saha. And that is why we have Anati Pratyaya, no. I think you people remember vaguely something it has to do with the pratyaya, but what is it? What rule do we have to overcome in case of Pumskokilaha and Pumsputraha? Ampare. Ampare does not have anything to do with this particular question. I hope I made the question clear. My question is, if Sampunkanam so Vaktavyaha were not there, what would have happened in Pumha Kokilaha or Pumha Putraha is the question. Correct. There is one answer from Ravi. Anybody else? There is a sutra, Kupoh Kahpocha. We get either Jishva Muliya or Upadmaniya optionally. No, we have Kupoh Kahpocha. In case of, that is where we dealt with, is it a Pratyaya or not a Pratyaya? That's where we had the question. If it is a Pratyaya, then then Kupoh Kahpocha would have applied. To overcome Kupoh Kahpocha, we had to use Sampunkanam so Vaktavyaha. If we consider that Unadi Pratyayas are derived and are not derived and there is no Pratyaya, the Sakara is not of Pratyaya, Then there is another sutra which tells idudupadhasya chapratyayasya, which would have applied to give shatva. To prevent that, we have sampunkanam sovaktavyaha, which gives sattva. Clear? So in samskrta, in the absence of this, vashari would have applied to give an optional sattva. To prevent that, we used sampunkanam sovaktavyaha, which gives a nitya sattva. In case of pumskokilaha or pumsputraha, kupoh kahpocha would have applied to give jihvamuliya or upadhmaniya in one case, or idudupadhasya chapratyaya would have applied to give a shatva. To prevent both of these, we use sampunkanam sovaktavyaha and we get sattva. Right? Okay. So there is one more question which was raised by Shadagopanji, where he says we are in the Asiddha Kanda, that is Tripadi, and still we are applying 837 and then going back to 832 or 834, which is Anunasikat Paronuswaraha. How? Because the Purvatra Siddham is not for Sutra to Sutra, it applies to Prakarana and Prakarana. The Prakarana says Atra Anunasikaha. Atra, by Atra, Panini means Rup Prakarana. Therefore, this Nashtavya Prashan or any of the Rutva Sutras are not Asiddha to this Sutra. Atra Anunasikah Purvasyatuva or Anunasikat Paronuswaraha. Because they specifically say in the Rutva Prakarana. The Rutva Prakarana includes whatever is included in the Rutva Prakarana will be visible to these two sutras, Atra Anunasikah Purvasyatuva and Anunasikat Paronuswaraha. That is why we first do Rutva and then use either Atra Anunasikah Purvasyatuva or Anunasikat Paronuswaraha to get Anunasika and Anuswara. Okay. Okay. So can we move on? Okay, so we have Shangish Chindi and Shangish Chindi. Here, since first thing it is not Sam, Pum or Kan, and also this is not Shar, so Vashari will not apply. This is not Kupvohu, Kavarga or Pavarga. Therefore, Kupvoh Kahpaucha will also not apply, and Idudupadhasya Chapratyaya also will not apply. So because of that, there is no obstruction of any sutra. We directly use Visarjaniyasya Saha and get a Sakara. Right? Shangimshchindi, Shangimshchindi. Similarly, Chakrin Trayasva. Just to say, Chakrin iti nakarantam padam, Ampare Chavi. Takarat paratra rephaha asti. Rephaha. So I think there was a question which was raised last class, that why say why not say ach, right? So we couldn't find an answer in the previous sutra. The question was Pumakhayi Ampare, Panini says. Why include the Pratyahara Why not just say ach? Because whether Pumsko Kilaha or Pumsputraha or whatever other examples which are given for Pumakhayi Ampare, Pumschali or other examples, everywhere you have only a ach varna which is following the khai varna. So why does Panini extend the Pratyahara to Right? So in that particular sutra, even though I looked up, I could not find any form which had a letter which was not ach after the khai. Right? But in this sutra, we do find an application for ampare. The ampare is being anuvritti from pumakhai ampare, and here that is why he gives a second example, trayasva, where takara and repha is there. For repha, we need an extension of ach. The question still remains what he could have said atti. At is the pratyahara which also includes repha. Why extend it till For that we need some rupa which has nyamanganana, one of those letters after the khai letter or the chav letter. If anybody can find such an example anytime, please tell. I'll also be looking out. Anyway, ampare khai, ampare chavi, nakarantam padam. Tat agre asti takaraha, takaraha chav varnaha, tatah paratvena asti rephaha, rephaha am varnaha. Ampare chavi nakarasya rutvam syat, rutvam anunasikaha visargaha sattvam, chakrin strayasva, anuswara pakshe chakrim strayasva. Padasya kim hanti. We saw that the padasya is an adhikara only if it is an akaranta pada. If the nakaranta particle is a pada, then only sattva or rutva will happen. If it is not a pada, for example, we have han and ti. Han iti dhatuhu, ti pratyayah. Han ityasya apadatvat atra na bhavati. In this case, when you have han and ti, even though it is ampare chavi, the other conditions are satisfied, but we do not get rutva here because han is not a pada, it is a dhatu. Right? Han tu I. छवर्णः तकारः अस्ति तत् परत्वेन अम्वर्णोऽपि अस्ति किन्तु हन इत्यस्य अपदत्वात् न भवति. अम्परे किम्? वै से अम्परे सन् सरुः इत्यस्ति. सन त स अरुः नकारान्तं पदम् अस्ति. अग्रे छवर्णः अपि अस्ति किन्तु सकारः अम्वर्णः नास्ति. Since this is not the ampare chavi condition is not satisfied. That is why we do not get rutva here. San saruhu. Saruhu khadga mushtihi. He says the cover of a sword is called saru. Aprashan kim? The sutra also tells naha chavi aprashan. Prashan shabdasya rutvam na bhavati. So why that condition? When you have prashan tanoti, you have all conditions satisfied. There is prashan, nakarantam padam asti, tatah paratvena takaraha chhavarnaha, akaraha amvarnaha. All conditions are satisfied, but still, since the sutra specifically says naha chavi aprashan, prashan shabdasya rutvam na bhavati. Okay. Any doubts? Okay. Agrimam sutram asti nrun pe. Same, the Rutva Prakarana is being continued. Nrun pe padadvayam asti. Matuvaso rusambuddho chandasi ityatah ru iti anuvartate. Nrun iti lupta shashthyantam padam. It should actually have been nrunaha because he says for the word nrun. Okay, but the shashti vibhakti is not seen. It still means it has carries the meaning of shashti. It means nrun iti shabdasya pe pakare pare ruhusyat rutvam bhavati. When the word nrun is followed by pakara, we get rutva for the nakara. Nrun ityasya ruhusyat va pakare pare. Nrun iti rakarantah pullingah nr shabdah. Tasya dvitiya vibhaktihi bahuvachanam. So nrun, it is derived from nr. Nr is a word which means naraha, but it means a man, but the words are different. There is an akaranta pullinga called nara shabda which declines as naraha narau naraha. There is also nr shabda which declines as na narau naraha. Na narau naraha naram narau nrun. Dvitiya vibhaktau bahuvachane nrun iti rupam. Nrun pahi इत्यस्ति चेत् अर्थात् नरान् मनुष्यान् पाहि इत्यर्थे नकारस्य स्थाने रेफः अनेन सूत्रेण नृन् पे इत्यनेन रेफे नृ पाहि ततः अनुनासिकः अत्र अनुनासिकः पूर्वस्य तु वा इत्यनेन अनुनासिकः अथवा अनुनासिकात् परोनुस्वारः इत्यनेन अनुस्वारः नृ पाहि नृ पाहि रेफस्य विसर्गः खरवसानयोर् विसर्जनीयः इत्यनेन उभयत्र रेफस्य स्थाने विसर्जनीयः. इदानीं किं भवति इति प्रश्नः. नृः पाहि यतोहि सम्पुङ्कानां सो वक्तव्यः इति न भवति. सम्पुङ्कान् किमपि नास्ति, अतः तस्य सूत्रस्य प्रवृत्तिः नास्ति. विसर्जनीयस्य सः इत्यनेन विसर्जनीयः स्यात् किन्तु तद् बाधित्वा as is we get visarjaniyasya saha, we should get a sakaradesha by using visarjaniyasya saha, but there is an exception to that rule which is kupvo kahpaucha. We saw this sutra earlier, but the actual sutra is here. Padatrayam asti kupvohu kaha paucha. Visarjaniyasya saha iti sutrat visarjaniyasya iti anuvartate. विसर्जनीयस्य इति षष्ठी विभक्तिः अर्थात् विसर्गस्य स्थाने कुप्वोः इति सप्तमी कवर्गे कु पु इति शब्दस्य सप्तमी द्विवचनं कुप्वोः कवर्गे पवर्गे च परे कु इत्युक्ते कवर्गः पु इत्युक्ते पवर्गः तयोः परयोः when followed by either kavarga or pavarga कहपौ स्तः कहपौ इति प्रथमा विभक्तिः द्विवचनं कः क इति जिह्वामूलीयः प इति उपध्मानीयः जिह्वामूलीयः उपध्मानीयश्च भवति विसर्गस्य स्थाने कवर्गे पवर्गे च परे जिह्वामूलीय उपध्मानीयौ भवतः इत्यर्थः च इत्यनेन कुप्पोः कहपौ च इत्युक्तं च इत्यनेन विसर्गोऽपि भवति so the same sutra does two things one is it replaces visarga with either jihvamuliya or upadhmaniya or it also replaces visarga with visarga so that sattva cannot apply. So there are two forms which can be derived from this sutra. One is a form with either jihvamuliya or upadhmaniya and the other is a form with visarga. Right? Kavarge pavarge cha pare visarjaniyasya kramat जिह्वामूलीय उपध्मानीयौ स्तः अर्थात कवर्गे परे जिह्वामूलीयः आदेशः पवर्गे परे उपध्मानीयः आदेशः चात् विसर्गः च इति उक्तत्वात् विसर्गोऽपि भवति. Okay, I think I'll cover this slide later. There are a few things about kupoh kahpau cha. We'll go back to our form which was nrun pahi. नृन् पे इत्यनेन नकारस्य स्थाने रुत्वे नृ पाहि ततः अनुनासिकः अनुस्वारः तस्य स्थाने विसर्गः इदानीं पवर्गे परे अर्थात् पकारे परे विसर्गस्य स्थाने कुप्पोः कहपौ च इत्यनेन उपध्मानीयः भवति नृः पाहि नृम्ः पाहि इति कुप्पोः कहपौ च इत्यनेन उपध्मानीयादेशः चात् विसर्गः इत्युक्तत्वात् विसर्गस्य स्थाने विसर्ग एव भवति नृम्ः नृम्ः पाहि नृम्ः पाहि. So by the same sutra we also get visarga replacing visarga so that there is no sattva, right? So the and then rutva bhave, as we saw nrun pe, the rutva itself is an optional sutra. So when you don't have the rutva itself, then we have one more form which is nrun pahi. So there are 5 forms together. One form is, when you don't do the rutva, since rutva is an optional, when rutva does not apply, it remains as it is, which is nrun pahi. When we do rutva and visarga, if the visarga is replaced by upadhmaniya, we have 2 forms. One is anuswara and one with anunasika. And if the visarga is replaced by visarga, that is, it remains as visarga, then we have 2 more forms. Altogether, we have 5 forms for nrun plus pahi. Clear? Okay, I have a question here. Kupoh kahpocha is the sutra which gives jihvamuliya and upadhmaniya. Right? We all know what is jihvamuliya and what is upadhmaniya, I hope. We say jihvamuliya is a letter which is half visarga which occurs before kakara or khakara. We have ramah kaha or ramah khanati. In both cases we have jihvamuliya. Similarly for pakara and khakara we have upadhmaniya. Antahpuram or antahphalati. For pakara and pakara we have upadhmaniya. So the sutra tells kavarge pavarge cha pare. Right? It does not say kakara khakarayoh parayoh or pakara phakarayoh parayoh. It says it includes the entire kavarga and the entire pavarga. So why do we not get jihvamuliya or upadhmaniya when the 3rd, 4th or 5th letter is there? Say for ga, gha or nga, we never get jihvamuliya. For pa, pha, ba, bha, ma, we never get upadhmaniya. Why is it so? When the sutra tells any letter of the kavarga, if visarga is followed by any letter of the kavarga, we can get jihvamuliya. Why is it that we see jihvamuliya or upadhmaniya only for the first 2 letters? Hiranalji?
There it relates to only ka and kha, pa and fa only, whereas here it relates to the entire varga, ka varga and pa varga, that is all ka 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 anga and pa 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 ma. That is why this entire varga is not jiva muli or upadmani.
No, I did not understand. Why is it only, where does it relate only to the first two letters?
Where we have that jiva muli and upadmani, they relate only to the first two letters only.
Why? That is the question. Why only to the first two letters?
That is the sutra that we find all the roots which are Tantavya and Talavya, Jiva Muliya. That's all we have.
No,
those.
No. There it does not say anything. It just says Jihva Muliyasya Jihva Mulam. Jihva Muliya arises from Jihva Mula, or that Upadmaniya arises from that. There, this is the only sutra which gives Jihva Muliya or Upadmaniya. Let me tell you, Gupoh Kahpaucha. And it says you can get Jihva Muliya or Upadmaniya when any letter of the Varga is there. The sutra literally tells that. But it is a fact that Jihva Muliya or Upadmaniya can happen only if there is Kakara Khakara or Pakara Phakara. Why so is the question.
No idea.
Kumudji. Hello? No microphone? Okay. Yeah, she was also correct anyway. Because of the fact that Visarga is never found before either Gaghanga or Babhama. Right? Why so? Because the sutra which gives Visarga is Kharavasanayor Visarjaniyaha. It says Khari Pare. Visarga is obtained only when there is a Kharvarna following. The Kharvarna includes only the first two letters of the Varga. So we have a Visarga before Kakara or Khakara, and we have an option of a Visarga occurring before Pakara or Phakara. But in case of Mrudu Vyanjanas, that is Gaghanga or Babhama, there is no Visarga at all. We cannot get a Visarga in case of either Gaghanga or Babhama. That is why this cannot convert. Even though Kupoh Kahpaucha says that you can get a Jihva Mulya or Upadmaniya when Visarga is followed by any letter of the Kavarga, Visarga is never followed by any other letter other than K and Kh. Yes, Kharvasanayor Visarjaniyaha is the only sutra which gives Visarga. Other than we have these sutras like Vashari and some sutras, but all of them apply only there, which is Khar. Other than Khar, there is no other case where you can get a Visarga. Right? Okay. Now there was something with Kupoh Kahpaucha. I'm not sure if I should go into it now. Okay. I think I finished the Rutva Prakarana today, and there is a bit more left with Kupoh Kahpaucha, a bit of Siddhanta Shastra Chintana, which we will do next class. Okay. Agrimam Sutram Bhavati Kan Amredite. Padadvayam asti Kan Amredite. Nrun pe iti vadeva Kan Amredite. Matuvasoru Chandase ityataha Ru iti anuvartate. Kan iti punaha lupta shashthyantam padam. Here also it should have been Kan Shabdasya Kanaha iti shashthi lupta. We do not hear the shashthi, but it still means Kan iti shabdasya. Amredite pare. Amreditam. Tasya param amreditam. Viruktasya param rupam amredita samyam syat. We studied in Ach Sandhi Prakarana. Amredita is the name which is given to the second part. Whenever there is a dvitva, the second part is called amredita. Right? Amredite pare. Tadrishe amredite pare. Ruhu syat. Ruhu iti prathama rutvam bhavati. Alontyasya iti paribhashaya antyasya nakarasya. Everywhere, wherever we do rutva, it is always for the last varna. By alontyasya. So the sutrartha is kan nakarasya, kan shabdasya yah nakaraha tasya ruhu syat amredite pare. Amredite pare tasya rutvam bhavati. Kan ityasti tatra nityavipsayoho ityanena kan shabdasya dvitvam. So vipsa means again and again. For example, kan prichhamaha. Who all should we ask? Iti arthe vipsarthe. That is what we call vipsa. Vipsa is again and again. So that is kan and kan. Dvitvam bhavati. Dvitve krute asya dvitiya kan shabdasya amredita samya asti. Tadanim kanamredite ityanena purvasya nakarasya rutvam bhavati. Kar kan. Rutve krute atranunasikah purvasya va athava anunasikat paronuswaraha ityanena kar kamr. Kharvasanayor visarjaniyah ityanena visarjaniyah. Kan kamh kan. Tataha sampunkanam sampumkan iti vartike त्रयः शब्दाः उपात्ताः सम शब्दः सम इत्युपसर्गः पुं शब्दः कान् इति शब्दः एतेषां सह वक्तव्यः इत्यनेन अत्र जिह्वामूल्यः प्राप्नोति वस्तुतः कुप्वोः कः पौच इत्यनेन जिह्वामूल्ये प्राप्ते तद्बाधित्वा सम्पुङ्कानां सो वक्तव्यः इत्यनेन सकारः कांस्कान् कांस्कान्. So here actually we should get jihvamulya because there is a visarga which is followed by a kavarga. But since sampunkanam so vaktavyaha specifically says kan shabdasya sattam bhavati, we do sattva. We get two forms. One is kanskan and the other is kamskan. Sampunkanam iti saha yadva. He says the sakara is by sampunkanam so vaktavyaha. Or there is also one more way to derive this sakara, which is kaskadishu cha iti agrimam sutram padadvayam asti kaskadishu cha inashaha iti purnam inaha shaha iti anuvartate visarjaniyasya saha ityatah visarjaniyasya iti anuvartate sopadadav ityatah saha iti anuvartate. Kah arthah kaskadishu iti vishaya saptami kaskadigane pathitanam shabdanam vishaye. This is similar to your shakandhadishu pararupam vachyam. You have this kaskadi is a gana, a group of words. In all these words, with regard to these words, there is either shatva or sattva, is what he says. To derive these words, the words which have been told in this gana, inaha iti panchami vibhaktihi in iu rilr hayavarat lan paryantam pratyaharaha inah parasya visarjaniyasya visargasya sthane shaha shatvam bhavati. It is in all these words, wherever there is an visarga which is preceded by an in letter, there is shatva. Inah paratva bhavetu. But there are also some letters where there is no in preceding the visarga. In that case, saha satvam bhavati. It says whatever the words which are being told in this gana, which is kaskadi gana, to derive that, I mean this kaskadi gana is meant as an exception to kuhpoh kahpocha. Right? This is the first thing. It is a kahpayor apavadaha. It says wherever we have kavarga or pavarga, we should have got jihvamuliya. As an exception to this, he says kaskadishu. In this gana, whatever the words which are told in this gana are all where there is either sakara or shakara. Right? So where is sakara and where is it shakara, if you ask? Wherever there is an in which is preceding the visarga, it has to be shakara. Wherever it is not in, then it will be sakara. So the question to Subramanian ji is, why don't we use tasminniti nirdishte purvasya for kaskadishu? Right? So there is a question. Wherever there is saptami, there is one which we call the parasaptami, where it says kaskadishu pareshu, and there is something else which we call vishaya saptami in their case, which is with regard to these. Okay, the difference is vyakhyana, by commentary. Is it parasaptami or vishaya saptami? Because this sutra does not mean kaskadishu pareshu. Kaska itself is a shabda, so it does not mean that when followed by that shabda something else is happening. It is in the shabda. Within the shabda there is some karya which is happening. That is why it is interpreted as vishaya saptami. For example, the words which Panini has told in this gana are kaskaha. Kaskaha is kaha plus kaha. We'll see just next line. So sutrarthaha bhavati kahpayor apavadaha eshu kaskadishu ina uttarasya visargasya shahasya anyasya tu saha. उदाहरणं पश्यामः कस् कः इत्यस्ति कः कः इत्यर्थः कः कः इति स्थिते कुपोः कहपौ च इत्यनेन जिह्वामूलीयः प्राप्नोति तदपवादत्वेन अत्र कस् कः इति पठितः अर्थात् कस् कः इत्यत्र यः विसर्गः तस्य सकारः वक्तव्यः इत्यर्थः he gives a ready made form. So the sutrartha derived to get this form what we are doing is we are replacing the visarga with sakara. Similarly, kautas kutaha, kautaha kutaha ityasti, tatrapi visargasya sthane sakaraha. Sarpish kundika, sarpihi kundika, atra tu visargat prak invarnaha asti, sarpi iti ikaraha. Idah parasya shatvam bhavati ityanena sarpish kundika, it is directly a shakara. Here it is not in, kaha is akara and kautaha is also akara. So there is no in, so we get sakara. If there is in, it is shakara. If there is no in, it is sakara. Dhanush kapalam. Dhanuhu plus kapalam is also shatva. It is dhanush kapalam. Right? Akriti ganoyam. And this gana is an akriti gana. I had told once that there are rigid classes and there are extendable classes. The rigid classes are where only the words which have been told by Panini can be are included. Whereas an akriti gana is where similar words can also be included by if there is prayoga, of course. So the words which actually Panini tells in this gana are kaskaha, kautaskutaha, bhratushputraha, bhratuhu putraha, bhratushputraha, shunaskarnaha, shunaha karnaha, shunaha is the dog, the ear of a dog, sadyaskalaha, sadyaskihi, sadyaskaha, kamskan. So you find that the point for us is the word kamskan is there in this gana. Panini has told kamskan in the kaskadi gana. So because it has been told in the gana itself, we get sattva. We don't need kan in sampunkanam sovaktavyaha is Dikshitar's point. We can use sampunkanam sovaktavyaha, which is a vartika. But in that vartika, the Vartikakara need not have included kan, because by this sutra, by Kaskadishucha, we would anyway have got sattva. So the inclusion of kan is not needed in Sampunkanam Sovaktavyaha. Right? Sarpish Kundika, Dhanush Kapalam, Bahishpalam, Yajushpatram, Ayaskantaha. Ayaha Kantaha. Ayaskanta is a magnet. There also, instead of Ayah Kanta, we have Ayaskanta. True. Kanam redite. That is also a question probably. Why use, what's the point of kanam redite? We can anyway treat kanskan as a nipata. Good question. I'll think about it. Ayaskantaha, Tamaskandaha, Ayaskandaha, Medaspindaha, Bhaskaraha, Ahaskaraha. So all these are the words which have been told in the Gana. So in all these cases we have Sattva or Shatva. Okay. So I think Kamskan, why do we need? Actually there is also one more thing which Balamanorama says, which I don't know, because the book I have which has the Ganapatha includes Kamskan in Kaskadi Gana. But the Balamanoramakara says that Kamskan is not actually in the Gana, and he says Akriti Gana. That is why, since this is an Akriti Gana, we can include Kamskan. Right? So in that case it would make sense for having Kanam Redite. Because when after using Kanam Redite we have either Kanskan, Kamh Kan or Kam Kan. Since we need Sattva, we can put it into the Akriti Gana and say that there is Sattva. In case there is no Nipata, we cannot treat it as a Nipata because Panini has not actually told that word. Okay, I'll repeat the question again. The question was, why do we need kanam redite? If kamskan is there in this gana, then it can be treated as a nipata. Okay, we have already dealt with nipatas where Panini gives a ready-made form. So if kamskan is already in the gana, why does he say kanam redita? He doesn't need kanam redita at all. Even without it, we have the ready-made form which is kamskan. Because of that, we have sattva. Right? Since we have sattva, we can also have rutva also by nipatana, and we can have the ready-made form kamskan. Why need kanam redite? Is a question. Which makes sense. If kamskan is actually in the gana, it makes sense. But the Mala Manorama Vyakhyana says that kamskan is actually not told by Panini in the gana. The word kamskan is not there, is what Bala Manorama Kara says. Says this, all these words are there. Kaskaha, Kautaskutaha, Sarpishkundika, Dhanushkapalam, etc. But since this is an Akriti Gana, because of that facility of having an Akriti Gana, that is, we can add similar rupas, we can also get sattva for kamskan by the sutra, is what he says. In that case, we need kanam redite, because only if we have kanam redite, we get rutva and we get a possibility where there is a jifa mulya. To prevent that, we can put it into this gana and get kamskan. But if kamskan is already in the gana, if it has been told by Panini in the gana, then we have to think about why kanam redita is there. Right? Was that clear? Or did I confuse few people? Okay. So I have to see, because my Ganapatha, which is there at the end of Siddhanta Kaumudi, includes kamskan, but I'm not sure if it is really there or not. I have to look at it. Okay. So I hope today's thing was clear. I left a bit in between, which I'll explain in the next class. Okay. Any questions? Okay. Yenaakshara samam nayam adhigamya maheshwarat kutsnam vyakaranam proktam tasmai paninaye namaha. Vakyakaram vararuchim bhashakaram patanjalim paninim sutrakaram cha pranatosmi munitrayam. Munitrayan namaskritya tadukti paribhavya cha vayyakarana siddhanta kaumudiyam virachyate.